Hello, everyone. We're back. We're going to shoot through this. No retakes, no edits, no nets. This is our guerrilla filming expedition. So we're going to talk about the Gypsy Jokers and the Hells Angels War and when and how it started. A lot of people have been writing me saying, where did this mess all come from? And I talked to one of the individuals that was there and started in San Francisco, of course. But we'll get into that at the end of the question and answers deal. So let me have the first question. My lovely wife is off camera, and she's going to read the first question.
Okay, it's from Keith Bandit Ball. I remember your riser breaking on the freeway. I reached over and held it in place until you could get off the freeway. I believe Cheryl came to our rescue. Remember that?
I do remember that. The reason Keith, I did a little story on Keith last week, and got a lot of questions about it, and some of the people. There was nothing negative, and that was really great because I really dig Keith a lot, and Keith's a good guy. And during the little story, I said something about me breaking down one time, but I couldn't remember the circumstances. And Keith got a hold of me this morning, and he wrote this as a joke. That's an actual question he wrote. He wrote it to my private email address, but my riser broke, and my friend started wobbling, and Keith came up, put his hand on somewhere on the front end, and stopped it from wobbling. And I slowly slowed the bike down, went through I had a jockey shift on it, went down, through the gears, and got it stopped without falling down. And then I think he ran off the freeway and called Cheryl. This is before cell phones. This is in the early 70s. I had an El Camino pickup at the time, and I think it was El Camino. And Cheryl came and took me back home, and she was happy because sometimes I take off and not come home for a few days. And you remember those good old days, Bev? People that don't know, Bev and I go back to 12 years old. That's when I met Beverly. You were a year older than me, weren't you? And Beverly wound up marrying a really good friend of mine. Him and I had a long-term relationship, but I've actually knew Bev longer than I knew him. But Bev and him were married for 57 years. Bev used to hang out with Cheryl and knew Cheryl very well. Some of you know this, some of you don't. Beverly was a witness in my trial in 1986. She was a character witness, and the FBI raised hell with her for that. But anyways, that's a whole different story I may tell sometime. But I'm reminiscing right now. I'm thinking about Cheryl, and I'm thinking about you and Bob and Bandit and all the good times.
A lot of good times.
Yeah, a lot of good times.
Okay, D-Money gets money. The killing of the two out-of-state bikers was senseless, causing Whispering Bill to roll. They just should have been told the two bikers that they weren't Hell's Angel material.
Well, you're making a lot of assumptions there. Who and what's his name?
He just says, "D-Money gets money."
D-Money gets money. Look, D-Money gets money. No disrespect to you, but there's a lot of extenuating circumstances I don't think you're aware of, and maybe I haven't made it clear. But back then, in the 70s, people were playing. They would play head games together. Sometimes you were the participant. Sometimes you were the target. And what happened was these guys came into town, were partying at one of the clubhouses, and a little bit too much LSD and a little bit too many mind games. And one of the guys flipped out, and they tried to subdue him. He wound up getting killed. The partner, I'm not going to get into it too deep. It was described that guy's got to go too. And I'm not going to say who gave that order. I don't know that for sure. I've been told in a roundabout way. You can imagine who it was. But that story's in Crossing the Rubicon, and it's all stems around Whispering Bill, who was dying of cancer, and he became an informant. Chester Green, who went south and became, when I say south, Southern California. Ultimately, he wound up in Oklahoma along with his brother Bud in the Mongols. But Rotten Richard. Rotten Richard was the president of a charter up there at the time, and it's all laid out in the book. But it was a senseless killing. I'll agree with you there, but it's probably a good reason why people wound up ultimately to stop dosing people with LSD. That's a heavy drug, and if you've never taken it before, really think you're losing your mind. But anyways, I guess I covered it, huh, Bev?
Yeah.
She's giving me that look like, Jesus Christ, George.
Well, we do the microdosing. So you're
Well,
just
yeah,
kind
I
of-
mean, I still fuck around with LSD. I mean, that was part of the culture I grew up in, and you know, I hung out with the dead. Got it direct from Osley. You know, I was always careful with it. You know,
Okay,
not always careful.
Mr. Cotter, 2531 writes.
Mr. Cotter again.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Cotter.
Did you wear your cut when you traveled on planes? And how were you treated with it on?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I had to make a transition because I was brought up with the question marks, the Saint and slaves, and they did not wear their cuts if they weren't on their bikes. So JC from New York, the president up in Rochester, and I were together in L.A. and he was wearing his patch. Well, I had my patch folded up in the car. We were in the car at the time, and he was really offended that I didn't have my patch on in the car. I explained to him why I didn't. I said, you know, this isn't the way we did things down there in Southern California. And, you know, we had a discussion about it. He was very receptive, very open to it, understood where I was coming from. I put my patch on after our conversation, and after that, I pretty much wore my Hell's Angel patch wherever I was. And I did wear it flying, and you know what? We got treated like kings, man. You know, really, really well. That's when that country outlaw movement was going on. We were friends with Waylon and Willie and the other outlaw country stars. So, you know, there was like little rumblings around that we were good guys, even after Altamont. Okay.
Mike Rush writes, what charter was most dreaded to deal with aside from Oakland?
I don't know. I don't want to use the term dreaded, but if I have to, Dago, San Diego.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've talked about it before. I've said the story and told the story about at the meeting, you know, Dago's talking about war. I'm trying to get them off the subject. I bring up an idea to make a T-shirt for a run, and as we're voting on the T-shirt, you know, Dago stands up. Dago votes war. We said, no, man, we're voting on a T-shirt. They were one-minded, one gear, full on. They were always ready for a fight or to prove their point, but they were also always ready to party, looking for a good party. But I'd have to say Dago, and I say that with respect, man. Guy and I were very close in Crunch, and a lot of good memories. I've got some funny stories about Guy from prison. Him and I were in prison together, and I also have some funny stories just, you know, on the road with Guy that I'll tell sometime. Okay.
Frank Cower writes, okay, this one I kind of don't get. What's your opinion on Christian clubs from the 1% perspective?
Okay.
Well, Christian clubs aren't 1%ers, are they?
And this gentleman wants to know, how do the 1% clubs feel about the Christian
I
clubs?
see. Okay.
So, you know, mixed emotions about it. You know, you're a Christian club now. You've got religion, so to speak. You know, I certainly have my moments of spirituality, but, you know, always still consider myself an outlaw. I'm prepared to do whatever I've got to do. I'm not prepared to turn the other cheek. And, you know, if these guys profess to be Christians, I don't know what their doctrine is. As long as they stay in their lane, when I'm speaking philosophically, I got no problem with them.
Okay, this one is hysterical. Ronnie M., 1977. My questions never get answered.
What's his name? I got hurt his feelings, man. What's his name?
Ronnie M.
Ronnie M.
Yeah.
Oh, Ronnie, I actually, the next time you go by your mother's house, check her ass because I pinned a note with your answers on it. Okay, so ask your mom.
God dang it. Nicole writes, what advice would you have for your younger self? Oh my God.
Invest in cocaine. No, I'm joking,
George.
man. My wife's. I would say, and I say this to everybody that gets put in a leadership position: don't make yourself bigger than the position you hold. If you're going to be a leader, you got to be a leader. If you want to be a partier, then be a partier. But it's hard to do both. And I tried to mix and match, and it always didn't come out real well. So just don't make yourself bigger than the position you hold. I would say that not only to would-be leaders, I would say that to world leaders, and
Like Putin.
well, I can think of a couple other guys too, but I'm not going to get into it. I don't want Beverly tackling me. Okay.
Okay, how often do you ride?
I try to ride minimum of once a week. We were out yesterday. We were up in Ojai. I ride a sidecar. I've had a couple of people write me and tell me, oh, you're riding a sidecar, you're getting old.
Well, we are.
Yeah, well, we are getting old, you're right. But, we also, when I say we, I'm talking about my younger self. Rode a sidecar in the 70s. I used to fucking haul all the guys around. What did you call them yesterday? The wounded?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to haul all the guys with broken legs and arms and whatnot in my sidecar. I had a panhead with a sidecar on it. It was all rigid in the 70s. So I, on and off, I've had several sidecars. They're a lot of fun. I think that you see us out riding, it'd be me, Beverly, and Fonzie. Come up and say hi, man.
Pork Chop writes, Black Crow Patch from Oakland Sadistics.
Yeah, remember last week I had mentioned I couldn't remember all the clubs. We were down in the Yuma prison run, and the Sadistics were the club with the Black Crow as a patch. And something else I thought about, the Sadistics were the first guys I've ever seen with tattoos on their face.
Oh,
They had, they would shave their eyebrows and put lightning bolts and whatnot. Also, another group of guys that Bandit and I used to run into was the Molochs. And the Molochs, these guys would have like really long hair. Like I had long hair at the time too, but these guys would shave the side of their head and they would have their motor. If they had a knucklehead, they'd have a knucklehead tattooed on their head with their motor numbers across the top. I mean, it was, I was kind of impressed as far as outlaws.
My God,
I went, Jesus, man, these guys are way ahead of the curve. And first time I ran into them, it was like probably 2:00 in the morning down at Pierpont Boulevard. I was with Bandit. And
where were they from?
They were from Pismo Beach area. Yeah. And they were
Central
down looking
Coast.
for a party in Ventura. And this is the days when you ran into another outlaw biker, man. You wanted to stop and talk to him and find out where they were coming from, who they
Instead
were.
Of kill him.
Yeah, you had no ill thoughts about it. It was like, hey, man, check his rig out. And I'm not talking about dope rig either. I'm talking about his motorcycle. But I get all excited when I start thinking about that because it used to be. You'd go, fuck, there's another fucking outlaw biker, man. I wonder what he's up to. And you go over and, I wasn't above going over and talking to somebody. Okay, next one.
Oh, God, this one ought to get a good answer. Craig DeSenza. Why are you putting out club business on the street? I was in a 3-piece club for 15 years. I know for a fact it is not good.
Well, no, that's your opinion. What's his name?
Craig DeSenza.
Craig Dissenter.
Descenza.
I'm being a smartass. Dissenter. He's a dissenter. He doesn't like what I'm doing. Well, it's an opinion. If that's what you think, then you know what? Don't put out any club business. But I'll tell you, I have shared some other club business, and if you want to know what it is, ask your mom. So that's it. Beverly's left me. I've been getting questions about the Gypsy Jokers for months. How did the fight start with the Gypsy Jokers? Well, it started in the 60s. The Hells Angels and the Gypsy Jokers were always kind of on shaky terms, I was told. This is up in the Bay Area. And the night before the shit came down, Frisco had stole a couple of Jokers' bikes. And word got put out that, hey, keep your eye open if you're around the Jokers. Well, Robert Poland, Nazi Dave, who were both Daly City members, and an Ohio out-of-town member, all went to Golden Gate Park to a Sunday event to listen to music. And this is when there'd be big gatherings in the parks. And I'm talking about big gatherings. This is when the Dead, the Jefferson Airplane, Quicksilver Messenger Service, Big Brother, all these groups would play for free in the parks, and they would just fill up. And Frisco had warned everybody in the morning, I guess. This is what Robert Poland told me. I talked to Robert Poland today about it. And Frisco had warned everyone, keep your eye out with the Jokers. Well, Robert, Nazi Dave, and this Ohio member went to the Golden Gate Park. And who showed up but the Gypsy Jokers? And Robert said they were kind of like in a little knoll, and they didn't see the Jokers coming. They walked up on the crest of the hill, came down into the little area where they were at, and started attacking them with baseball bats. And there was Nazi Dave got beat up real bad. Robert Poland wound up with a plate in his head, spent some time in the hospital. There was a Mexican guy there partying with him, and this is when that Mexican-American movement, La Raza, was going on. This guy was part of that movement, and he jumped in to back up David and Robert. And he had one hand. He was a one-handed guy, and he grabbed the shotgun, by the barrel, and one of the Jokers shot him and killed him. And apparently there was a photographer there taking pictures of the bands, and I guess the whole event kind of got sequenced in the events as they happened by this photographer. That's the way I understood it. Well, the Jokers ultimately, they wound up and they got busted. There was no doubt about who did it or why they did it. Any of the Jokers that didn't get indicted jumped on their motorcycles. They took off up to Oregon. And, that was the end of the Jokers in California. Now, I'm going to say, over the years, I ran into the Jokers several times up in the Oregon, Washington area. It's always been cordial. It's always been friendly. And, I hope that there's no more hard feelings left. Robert and I were laughing about it today on the phone when I was talking to him. But that's how the war started. I not only talked to Robert Poland about it today, I talked to Robert Poland about it years ago, and I also had talked to Nazi Dave when he was alive. And, that's exactly what I was told. I wanted to confirm it today with Robert before I said anything. But for the people that always asked, how did it start? That's how it started. That came direct from Robert Poland, one of the guys that was there when the shit came down. So that's it for this week. You want to hear about something specific, write me. You can write me on my Gmail. You can go to georgechristie.com and, hook up with me through there. Or you can just write in the comments. Please follow, comment. Don't take this shit too seriously when I talk shit to you. I know some of you guys have written me privately and want to know why I'm attacking your mother. It's nothing personal. Well, maybe it is. Anyways, please continue to follow us. We appreciate it. If you don't like the commercials, go to Patreon. That's it for this week. I'll talk to you all next week. Thank you.